welcome back to the show. This is the podcast, the Hobnobbin with Slim Man podcast. I am your host, Slim Man, Slim Manicotti, Slim Papa, Showstopper. Coming to you from Slim's Shady Trailer Park, right here in beautiful Palm Springs, California. How are you, Slim people? How are you, boys and girls? Just checking in on you. Hope everybody's doing all right. Today we are going to listen in on my conversation with guitarist Joyce Cooling. We had a great chat. We had really good flow. Oh, it was nice. But before we dig into my conversation with Joyce Cooling, let me tell you about what's been happening here at the Slim Shack. Well, it is lemon season out here in Palm Springs. There are a lot of lemon trees out here, and I love lemons. For the past 100 years or so, first thing in the morning, I get up, I get a big 16-ounce glass, I cut a lemon in half, I squeeze it into that glass, I fill it with water, and I drink it on down, and then I turn around and I do it all again. I love lemons. I use a lot of lemons in my cooking. My Italian kickin' chicken has a great recipe with lemons, and right in back of the Slim Shack, I have a Meyer lemon tree, and Meyer lemons are so delicious. They're kind of sweeter than normal lemons, and the skin is really nice and smooth. And it's always nice to go out there out back to the lemon tree, pick a couple of lemons, and have some lemon juice. Last night I made my Italian kickin' chicken with those lemons, and oh, it was so good. I've got the recipe at slimmancooks.com if you want to check it out. The recipe is free for all slim people. Yes, it is. What else? On Friday evening, I had a conversation with Antonia Bennett. She's Tony Bennett's daughter. Antonia and Tony Bennett did a concert here at one of the casinos on Saturday night, and she got in a day early. And I reached out to her and told her it would be great to hook up and have a little conversation, catch up on old times. Antonia sang on a song called Baby It's Cold Outside, a song from the Slim Man Christmas Eve CD. She did such a stellar job, I'm telling you. Anyway, it was great to catch up with Antonia. I was going to go and see the show on Saturday night, but I had a gig, so I couldn't see the show, but it was great catching up with her. And what else has been going on? I'm getting ready for my big trip to San Antonio, Texas. I leave tomorrow on December the 12th, 12/12, which is Frank Sinatra's birthday. Happy birthday, Frank. And got a big show in San Antonio on Friday. Then I fly back on Saturday to Palm Springs. And I got a show out here. Then I turn around and fly to the East Coast of Baltimore, Maryland. Balmer, Maryland, my hometown. Got a show on Friday, December the 22nd at the Ram's Head Tavern in Annapolis. One of my favorite places to play. A club that has been voted best venue under 500 seats all across the United States. They've got great sound and great lights, and it's just a nice club. And I'm really looking forward to that. And so I've been practicing and going over all the Christmas songs and getting ready for all of the Slim shows that are coming up in December. But right here, right now, let's dig into my conversation with guitarist Joyce Cooling. She's up there in the San Francisco Bay Area of California, and we had a great conversation. It was one of those conversations that just went really smoothly from start to finish. As a matter of fact, I didn't do too much editing because it just had a nice little rhythm to it. And Joyce, wow, I've known her, 1997, 98. We did some shows together. We did some Christmas shows together as well, and some normal shows. And without any further ado, let's check out my conversation with guitarist Joyce Cooling. Knock, knock.
Who's there?
Slim Papa.
Slim Papa who?
Slim Papa Sure Stepper.
So, jeez. And that's how you sync it up. Oh, boy. We're in trouble, Slim.
We're synced up, Joyce.
Well,
how are you?
I'm good. And you?
I'll be okay in a couple of years.
Okay, now why a couple years? What's this couple years business here? This is what I want to know.
Let the storms pass over. It's just been, I don't know, it's just been a crazy time in the world. Number one.
Yeah, granted. Yeah.
It's just been, I've been around this planet for a couple of years, and just seems to be like one of the craziest times I've witnessed. I get up in the morning, I check my phone for the news, which is something I've never done. I usually didn't even pay attention to the news, and I don't know why. I check the news, and I get all depressed and pull the covers over my head, and I'm like, I can't get out of bed.
I know. Yeah, it's kind of wicked out there, but I can't tell if it's because stuff gets played over and over and over again. Like you hear it on TV, you hear it in your car, you hear it on your cell phone, you hear it on the internet, you hear it, it's getting tweeted, it's getting, you're getting emails, you're getting Instagram, you're getting all these feeds so that the news gets amplified. Bigger and bigger and louder. So I'm wondering if that might not be part of the perception that stuff is going askew when it's just getting slammed at you harder from a lot more different angles than it used to, say, 15 years ago or 10 years ago, right?
Right. I agree.
I'm hoping that's the case.
I think that's part of it. I agree. And I think another part of it is that whoever is posting this stuff, it seems to be like the more depressing or violent or ugly or just nasty. It's like the more you hear about it, because I think people always like click on that stuff, and they always tend to follow through, because it's just like you read it and you're like, oh, I can't believe this. A shark eats a family of 4, and it's just like, father of 17 shot, mistaken for a rabbit. It's just but
it's kind of like rubbernecking at a car accident. I have trained myself to not only look away, but to close my ears and mind. I'm getting so that I'm closing my mind to I'm not doing the ostrich, burying my head in the sand. But I choose not to engage in all that violence. I don't want it. In my old age here, I'm getting pickier and pickier about what I let into my conscious and subconscious. I'm getting choosy about it. And I'm thinking, well, what do I want to let in? Do I want to let family dead, by, shot dead and, eaten by shark, wild shark? Do I want to let that in? Or would I rather listen to some happening music, go out and hear, you know what I'm saying? Just
I
trying
do know
to
what
keep
you're
it
saying.
positive. Yeah.
Even in conversation, like when people, the niece, the nephew, whoever, my friend's family, did you hear this? I'm like, you know what? I don't want to hear it. You can just kind of hold that to yourself, because I don't want to fill my head with that stuff.
Exactly.
You can just hold that thought. If it's not like unicorns and rainbows and bubbles, I don't want to hear about it. I even have a hard time watching like really violent movies these days. It never bothered me before, like Taxi Driver, Robert De Niro.
I know.
Never bothered, but now I don't know why it does. Isn't it weird?
No, it's not weird. It's actually, I think it's evolution. I think it's evolution on your part. I feel the exact same way. And I'm not, over here being like a little Pollyanna. That's never been my vibe or my scene. But I'm getting choosy. That's what it is, Slim. I'm getting picky.
Yeah, I'm getting picky. And also, what else kind of happens to me is I tend to get withdrawn. I tend to withdraw from things. You see so much stuff on social media and Facebook, and it just, for me, I just tend to, I just tend
Yeah.
to get a little more withdrawn than I
feel you.
was. It's just kind of strange. Now, you just said you listen to music. Do you really listen to music? Do you actually play music? Because I know so many musicians that don't listen to music only because, it's like if you're a bus driver, you
Work.
don't want to go out and drive the bus around.
Exactly. Well, I think if I were like driving a bus, I might not want to. Although driving a bus can be groovy too. I don't mean it
Yeah, I
like
know.
that. Meaning, I guess music. We're lucky, Slim. We're lucky, or at least I consider myself lucky that
I do
have
too.
a gig. Okay, now here's something. There are aspects of music that I don't want to do that I consider work. Not the music itself, but like, you and I kvetch about this stuff all the time. Like, the music business stuff, it gets so tiring. Or, hey, promote yourself. No, go do this,
I
that
know.
stuff gets tiring. And do I want to do that with any off time that I have? Hell no.
Yeah,
But
no.
the music part, oh man, that's why I get up in the morning half the time. It's I love it, Slim. I still love music. And
Me too.
I have this music room where it's wall to wall. It's not a huge room, but it's a really cozy little music library room. It is wall to wall with LPs, CDs, and of course I have all my digital stuff. I love my iPod, and I have an extensive digital library that I love too. And I can toggle between all these things, even some funky cassettes. I still have cassettes, of of stuff you just can't get anywhere. Some funky little gig in New Jersey that, a friend said, hey, gave me a cassette of his or her gig. And, it's great stuff. And so, and a wide variety. Like the other day, I was doing a Ravel day, and I just had
Freddie Ravel?
Yo, Freddie.
So were you listening to Bolero and like
It was
dancing around the old
Maurice,
crib?
baby. Maurice Ravel. No, not Bolero. My mom, she passed away last year, and I went. Mom was a huge music fan. I mean, music was her thing. Music, art, all that kind of stuff. And of course, I think she's responsible for my love of it too. So for any of you out there that don't particularly like what I'm doing with my music, you can blame my mom.
Blame my mother.
Blame mom. No, at any rate.
So what was she listening to?
Oh God, she listened to everything. She turned me on to bossa nova when I was a kid. She loved it, but she was more of a classical, lady, but loved music and knew good music. Yeah.
So she's the one who turned you on to Ravel.
Yes. So she passed away, and of course, I got her CDs, and one of them was the orchestral works of Ravel, and a lot of those I was not familiar with. We've all heard the Bolero and the Pavane, the Pavans, and the more famous ones, the Mother Goose Suite, which I love. But this one was all this orchestral work that I had never heard before. And so I said one day it was a Ravel day, but it was turned into 3. It was so deep. So music is still, and then I did, then I'll turn around and I'll do a Bill Withers day, or, or just brand new Euro stuff, what some of the kids are doing out of Europe and Australia.
Those crazy European kids doing all that dang disco music.
I like a lot of it. I really do.
But yeah, there's a lot
you?
of a lot of stuff coming out of Europe that's great. But what I listen to, when I do listen to music, they've got a great station out here that I just found when I got out here. I was back east, and now I'm out here, and they have this station called KCRW, and they just play everything. When I say everything, you listen.
A mix.
They'll play the latest of everything. They'll play old music, new music. It's a wide open format.
I love that.
It's a public radio station. But during the day and in the morning up until noon and in the evenings, they play music. And I'm sitting there with my little pad, writing down the names of these people.
Me too.
And artists and bands. And I go, wow, what's that? Who's that? What's that?
Yep.
And I find an extraordinary amount of music that is wonderfully produced. And it sounds so good.
I agree.
Very little of it sticks. You know what I mean? Has that kind of stickiness to it where you want to listen to it more than once.
I know.
A lot of it's become a style thing. Rather
it
than
is. It's
a
more like a
song
groovy thing. Yeah, it's like a groove or
yeah.
a vibey thing. I know what you mean.
But I think that it's a great time for music, and it's a not so great time for music.
It was the best of times and the worst of times.
Exactly.
To quote some guy.
Right, some novelist. But there's a lot of great sounding stuff out there, and there's just, I think when you put the tools into the hands of just about everyone, and anyone can make a CD and have it actually sound technically good and in tune and in time due to technology.
Right.
You're going to get flooded. I mean, just a tsunami of music and product, and it's hard to.
You're right.
Wade through the whole. Yeah, it should get back, right? It should get back to the DJs. The guys who kind of had the good ears and who were able to wade through the mounds of crap to get to the good gem that they can play for you. Wouldn't you think it would kind of go back towards that? Like they've got this guy on KCRW called Jason Bentley, and he does
what's
exactly.
His name? What's the DJ's name? Jason Bentley.
Jason Bentley.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the show's called Morning Becomes Eclectic, and he plays everything and anything, and he's a guy who kind of sifts through the crap and plays the gems. And I listen to him in the morning when I'm in my car, because that's the only place I listen to music.
No, I understand.
Pretty much.
You're busy. Yeah.
No, I'm not really that busy. But it's it's how you consume music is so much different these days.
It is. So wait, so Slim, why is the car the only place that you tend to listen to music? How is it?
Because I do not have a studio. I don't have the good speakers set up on speaker stands. If I listen, I'll listen to it on my computer speakers, which is it's okay, or I'll listen to some stuff on my phone with some earbuds.
Yeah,
but when
I know.
But when I'm in the car, it's more of a you can. It actually has a CD player. I mean, who has CD players anymore? I don't.
I know. I was just about to get rid of my disk drive, and I figured, well, we better keep one around for the computer. Yeah.
Yeah. So when I listen in the car, it just kind of gives me it's just me, and I can listen and I can pay attention a little more. It always sounds good in the car with all that glass, and car stereos are really cool. And
it's cozy in there. Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah,
so
it's like
when I listen to music, that's where I am, and
do you find
a lot
of
times?
Oh, I'm sorry. Finish, and then I have a question for you.
Yeah, a lot of times it's just I hit the scan button, and if it falls on something, I listen to it, and no matter kind of what style, if it's cool, and then when I find something I like, I just pick up my phone and say, "Who is this?" And I don't know how they cataloged every song ever written, recorded since the beginning of time, but you can just point your phone at the speakers, and she goes, "That was."
And up comes the I love all that.
Me too.
All that.
I'm not complaining.
Yeah. So
right.
my question to you is, you're basically multitasking. You're driving, right? And you're in SoCal, right? You're in Southern California?
I'm in Palm Springs, California.
Okay. Well, the traffic's not so bad there. So, but you're driving and you're, going to a destination, et cetera, got things on your mind, maybe a list of stuff to pick up or do or somebody to see or whatever. So in a sense, you're multitasking with listening to music. Do you find that sort of waters down or dilutes your listening experience, or do you find you can listen really deeply and intently still while in the car?
I've stopped multitasking. I rarely talk on the phone in the car. Isn't that weird? And if it
Not
is,
at all.
it's really brief. It's like, okay, I'm driving, leave me alone. Like it's almost like the car is like my little safe spot.
It's your sanctuary.
It's my little. It's the Slim Sanctuary and University. It's where I do. It's where I do a lot of. A lot of listening to everything from Italian language lessons to new music. It's become like my little mobile university. So
That's
when
cool, though. That's cool. I like that.
I used to, just go 100 miles an hour and try to do 100 things at once. And I'm on the phone and I'm on the computer and I'm talking to this one and listen to that all at the same time. And I stopped about a year ago. I'm like,
Good for you.
I need to concentrate and I need to be present. I need to focus my attention on who I'm talking to or what I'm listening to or what I'm doing, because it otherwise it becomes like what I call a learned distraction. You're not normally distracted, but when things are pinging and ringing and dinging 24 hours a day, is all of a sudden like you're in the middle of something and all of a sudden bing, it's like, who's that?
I know. I don't answer. I just turn off my ringer. That's what I do. And the funny thing, Slim, is that, now I don't know, there's so many theories out there about everything, but I have heard on numerous occasions that multitasking doesn't really exist. What your brain ends up doing is toggling back and forth so quickly between the 2 or 3 tasks that you're performing, that it seems like you're doing everything at the same time. It's sort of like, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. That it seems, it's like looking at a light. Well, it's a stream of electrons, but our eye doesn't pick that up. So all we see is like a glowing light as one continuous flow of electrons making light. Well, it's the same thing with multitasking. You're not really multitasking. You're pinging back and forth. It's a stop start kind of thing, and it's kind of funky for your brain and your psyche. It's not really, not going to kill you, but it's not. I don't know that it's a road to Mecca or anything.
Yeah. Are you like when you're playing guitar, you're in the studio or you're on stage, are you thinking about anything other than playing guitar? In other words, like sometimes the thoughts pop into your head, or are you just like completely, focused on, being in the moment? And
sometimes I go in, Slim, and it's like the flow, man. It's Maslow's peak experience, and it's just happening. And other times I go in, and it's exactly what you're describing. It's just like trash, mind trash, clutter, just keeps poking its ugly head into my consciousness. And it's like, get out of there. But, and those days are more of a struggle. I kind of had one of those days yesterday. I was trying to put down, I was telling you about the accordion, right? Jay's accordion track. Well,
your husband, like your husband Jay is laying down an accordion track for a new song. Is that what it was?
Yeah.
So, all right,
but
you're laying down the accordion.
Yep, and everything's going wrong. The pickup sounds crappy, and the mic is, and we're trying this. Okay, let's go in direct through the tube. Let's go direct in through the Neve. We have a little Neve preamp, and we have a little PV preamp, and we've got solid state preamps. And try this going out from the back, And all of a sudden, like again, remember how we kind of started the conversation? That's the part about music that I don't want to do that stuff on my day off.
Yep.
Music, yes, but that kind of stuff, and that unfortunately goes along with making music, as you well know. And so
it does.
That was not a flow day. And then after all that, then it comes time for me to lay down, like I was fooling around with some, I don't play pedal steel, but I like pedal steel. So I was sort of trying to lay down a sustain part on the guitar with the volume pedal, to make it pedal steel-ish, ain't pedal steel, but it can sort of mimic it at times, and especially if it's mixed back in the track, to just give some thickness to a new section. Every time like a section comes back in, it's Jay really, ingrained this in me. He always tries to bring in something new at each section so that the track is growing and breathing and keeping interest, even though you're repeating a verse. Well, maybe the second time the verse comes in, maybe, a keyboard pad comes in, or guitar fills, or, you do it
I
all
do
the time.
know.
I hear it in your music. Yeah. So here we go with the pedal steel thing after all this accordion nonsense. And man, Slim, I was playing this stupid, nothing I played worked, and my mind is darting around, and it just wasn't happening. It took like hours to get through one, and then the sound wasn't right. It just, we've all been there. Couldn't concentrate.
You've got the accordion, you've got the pedal steel. Are you working on some Celtic country music record?
See, that's what one might think, but it isn't. It's just it's
just little flavors that pop in and out.
It is. It's a flavor, like it's a ballad, and I would say that it's got hints, just hints. It's not the thing itself, but it hints at maybe some Americana kind of flavor. But then, Jay's chords are jazzy, and, there are chord changes and, that kind of thing. But, Jay and I were talking about this the other day, and actually with some other friends too. What I end up doing, like, how some people are very, like, authentic in one style, very authentic, like,
right.
Like they go deep into one style and they play it so damn well and so thoroughly and so beautifully. I'm not one of those people. I've always loved grabbing this from here, this from here, this from, I had both of us had a strong Brazilian connection to Brazilian music. Are we like playing like straight sambas or baiaus or anything? No. But there's little flavors of that stuff in there. So I like pulling and grabbing from all styles, and I'm not authentic in anything except for maybe, Slim, I'd like to think that I'm authentic in being myself. That I'd like to think. I mean, we all think that, but yeah.
Yeah, well, I think that if you follow your gut and you go with your intuition, you're going to do what eventually becomes your style, your thing, and whatever you kind of put into that thing becomes your style. It's just, it's just like cooking. I love to cook, but most of what I cook, I use pretty much the same ingredients, because I'm Italian. My dad was, the whole thing. It's like, okay, like he always used to tell me, it's the same old crap. It's, olive oil, garlic, onions, tomatoes, parsley, blah, blah, blah. And I get it. I get it. So, my music, it tends to be the same. I don't usually use outside, I don't go outside the thing. I don't, I usually won't add an accordion or any bagpipes or anything like that to my music, just because.
And that's why we love you, Slim. I don't know that this is a good idea.
What I normally do is just, write a song and then just try to figure out the best way to capture that song. Mm-hmm. But I understand what you mean with adding layers. It does become really compelling, like Mark Antoine at the end of that one song that was real popular of his, and he brings in the accordion at the very end, and it is so cool.
It's so
and you
sweet.
never hear it before, and all of a sudden, and like if you listen to a song like "Shout" by Tears for Fears, right, the first time around it's just bass note drums. And the second time around, they add the synth, and then there's a guitar, and then there's a guitar solo. So by the time you're at the end of that song,
it's like pow.
It's like exhilarating, you know?
Yeah, it's bumping. And that's one way to do it. That's one way to do it. And other ways, like a lot of the stuff, as you mentioned before, now is sort of vibey. We were talking about some of the Euro stuff and some of the stuff out of Australia. It can be, not all of it, but some of it can be sort of vibey, chilly, and it's more about, you cop a groove and you stay there. and you
Yeah,
just get into a
right.
like you're riding on a camel, like across a long, in the sand with your head kind of bobs with every step he takes, and you just on this long journey, and it's groovy and cool. And that's another whole style.
But just in general these days, there aren't that many changes in songs that you hear on popular radio in
No,
popular music. It's just like one groove,
one
one
key.
set of one key, one set of chords, and that's it. There are very rarely any different, like bridges or
No, that lift
parts
to
that kind
other
of.
keys.
Yeah,
No, it's all
it's
mono
weird.
key.
So
But
what?
when one more comment on that, if I can stick this in. When you think about it, Slim, almost all of the music, especially like when you think of like indigenous music, it's all one key. It
That's true.
like when you think of except for America and Brazil,
Yep.
because it got the European influence. But then the beautiful thing about those two places, America and Brazil, is then they got the beautiful harmony coming from Europe, but then got all this funky groove coming from Africa,
Yeah.
through, and Latin America got infused with all these great killer grooves. Cuba, look at Cuba. My God,
I
the
know.
rhythms over there are just
Oh, it's
amazing.
so soulful, that music coming out of Cuba, the sun,
It
everything.
is.
I love it.
The
Yeah.
song, yeah, and Puerto Rico and all the Caribbean and stuff. But when you look at the music that it sprang from, it's all one key. It doesn't
Yeah.
modulate. It doesn't modulate, or does traditional African music or traditional Indian music. The grooves
That's
are
true.
like wild and all over the place, and the ragas change, but harmonically, once you start the song, it stays in one key. It can have different chord changes within that key, but it's not modulating all over the place like, say, like some of the Brazilian stuff, like from the 60s, Jobim and all that. That was harmonically very sophisticated,
Yeah.
which is why I fell in love with it, really, because it had the harmonic sophistication of all the classical European stuff, and then it had all this funky, bossa nova and samba and, all these funky, earthy grooves. And so the combination of the two just floored me. The jazz did the same thing, American jazz, I love that. I just love music from all over the world, as you can tell. I
Yeah.
do. I love it. I love
Me
music
too.
from every country.
Oh, so what drew you to Brazilian music? I know it played a big part from the get go, but why Brazil? How well? How did
How did it
how that
happen, you
happen?
mean?
Yeah.
How did it happen? Well, as I mentioned earlier, moms really liked the whole Brazilian thing. When the whole bossa nova thing came in the 60s, she was like, she loved it. João Gilberto and Jobim, and she loved all that stuff. I mean, classical was still her, anchor, but she loved it. It was beautiful to her, and so she'd play it. And I remember she liked the Sergio Mendes stuff, Brazil '66. Remember that? All those
Yeah,
great songs and
my
stuff.
mom too.
Yeah, your mom too. Yeah. So I got turned on to it that way. And then I just kept pursuing it and found all this interesting stuff. Ivan Lins and João Bosco and
He's great,
Hermeto
isn't he?
Pascoal. Yeah. Yeah. He's like the Burt Bacharach of Brazil. Or,
Yeah.
I hate making statements like that. Please
No,
don't
but it's
please don't
true.
quote me and say,
no,
don't
he's a
make that a
pop.
highlight, please.
He's a
Joyce
pop.
says Yvonne
He's a.
Lins is the Burt Bacharach of Brazil. I mean, don't do that
It,
to me,
it
please.
it is. But it's a good analogy because he was writing sophisticated music
Yeah.
that was compelling but accessible. It wasn't
And
it
catchy
wasn't
and
it
hooky.
wasn't like avant-garde jazz in the
No,
late
no.
50s. No, this was all sophisticated chord changes with intelligent lyrics and beautiful melodies. And
That
just
you
in
can
case
yeah.
people are wondering who Yvonne Lins is, just look up Ivan Lins.
Ivan Lins. That's right. Ivan Lins.
L-I-N-Z.
Ivan
L-I-N-S.
Lins. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
So
It's hard to.
your mom kind of turns you on to Brazilian music just by osmosis. What's been around the house, and you're listening. You're like, hey, I dig that.
Yeah, exactly. And the other day, like I mentioned, I was checking out. I had a Ravel few days here, and and then I love Brahms too. And so, I kind of had a little classical few days. And my God, Slim, talk about harmonic changes every second. It's modulating, it's beautifully modulating to some other fantastic place. I mean, I thought, wow, how would I try to transcribe this? Like write a jazz chart for some of these songs.
Yeah.
I mean, you could, but
Yeah.
whoa, man, you'd have a lot of leaps and bounds going on with the harmony. I mean, it's, and so that bled over into American jazz and into Brazilian music, obviously, and lots of places. So, I mean, man,
well, the Brazilian stuff. The Brazilian stuff obviously lends itself to guitar really well. The classical stuff, not so much. I mean, there are classical guitar pieces, but they're pretty much, classical guitar pieces that are usually done solo. I mean, I know there are a lot of that are included in the symphony.
A lot of them are renditions. You're right, of piano music, except for the famous ones.
Right.
What's the one? The big famous
classical
Spanish
gas. Mason Williams.
Oh, yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking of, Slim. Classical gas.
Was guitar your first instrument?
No, it actually. Well, no.
It was the accordion. You idiot.
It was the accordion. Damn it. The accordion got me. It was piano. Well, there was always a guitar in the house, always a piano. Mom's played piano. So maybe, probably banging around on piano, I would say first as some toddler, And then my uncle had a guitar store and was a professional guitar player, had the store later on in life, and was a professional guy. And so he handpicked this beautiful, it was like a $30 guitar. I still have it. I love playing the darn thing. He knew how to pick a guitar. There are guitars that cost, $30,000 that I don't enjoy playing as much as this one. This one doesn't have like a gorgeous sound. It's not that. It's just so nice to play. So I started kind of fooling around, with a few little chords and, things like that. But probably banging around on the piano, I would suppose, would been my first.
You started banging around the piano. You pick up the guitar. And at what age did you pick up the guitar?
To bang around on my brother's head, or to or to actually play?
Just to kind of like, oh, you know what? I can take this a little bit further. At what point did it become something more than just, El Cabong?
Yeah, kitty play. I'm so bad at this, Slim. I have an analog
you don't
memory.
have to pick out a year. You can. I mean, was it you were a teenager? Were you under a teenager?
I would say maybe like when it started. When I started actually like getting some songs and like little chords and things that I liked. Maybe preteen. What are you, 11,
Really?
10, 12, something in there. Just fooling around. But I did not get serious until later. In my 20s, really. I was a late bloomer. You know how you read about and hear about these kids that were playing, classical pieces when they were, age 3 and composing at 5. And I was not one of those whiz kids.
I hate those kids.
I just hate them. They're so annoying.
So you really didn't get serious till you were in your 20s?
Yeah, I didn't.
That's
but was
amazing.
Always into music. I was the kid in school that had the biggest, record collection and was the big music nut. So that I always, even as a child, I remember we had 45s. And I had like a little plaid, little box with a little latch on it that my mom got me for all my 45s. And you'd go over to your friends' houses and you'd go over to play records.
And you'd take your portable little record player?
No, they'd have a little record player, and I'd take my little plaid box, and we'd go over and play music. And a lot of the kids weren't into it, but I think I kind of forced it because that was my thing. And all through junior high and high school, growing and growing, music was the big deal in my life. Even though I didn't play professionally, didn't consider being a professional musician, just liked to play and jam
But
and hang out.
you've got some really serious chops. I mean, you can really play.
Aw.
I've obviously known your stuff. We've done shows together, and I've been familiar with your
Yes.
music, and we've done shows together, and you can really play. And that's amazing
Aw.
that you did all this starting in your 20s. I talked with a gal named Deanna Bogart. She's a piano player, and she didn't start until she was in her 20s, and she's a really good piano player. I mean, really good. And so are you. Was it like you got started in your 20s and took off like a rocket ship, or was it like a slow climb up the mountain?
Well, I first of all, thank you for your vote of confidence. And right back at you. I think, Slim, for me, to this day, I don't consider myself a huge chops player. There are some people on guitar or whatever instrument that can just burn at any tempo with flurries of 30-second notes, and I mean, their technique is impeccable. That's not me. I hopefully bring something else to the table. I
But
admire those. I'm jealous of those players. I admire them, and I'm always striving to really work on my technique. Just my sheer speed, that kind of clean speed, and play it down the first time, every time, play it perfectly, like one of those one-take studio musicians. Goes in and plays the perfect thing flawlessly. I mean, that's a beautiful thing. That's command of your instrument, and that's really beautiful.
You think about a lot of the guys who, like, for instance, guitar players. Like, you think about Jimi Hendrix. He was extraordinary. Changed electric guitar forever. Really,
Yeah,
I mean,
he
one
really did.
one of the guys, right? And what did he
Yep.
do? He played it upside down. He played a right-handed guitar, left-handed. Played it upside down. And if he had ever gone to a music teacher, they would have said, "You know what? You're doing it all wrong." Blah, blah, blah.
You do not play guitar with your teeth.
But here you have a guy who just had big, huge heart and big, huge soul, and he comes in and just shreds. Very few of the guys who are extraordinarily wonderful technical players, the guys and gals, they just don't seem to have a whole lot of heart and soul like a Hendrix.
And some of them really do. They have it all, and I hate
Yeah.
them.
Yeah, me too.
No, I'm kind of standing up for, like, maybe people like Pat Metheny. Like,
There you go.
He's a guy that's got it. Beautiful songs, beautiful harmony and melody.
Yeah.
Chops to spare, and so there are those beautiful players out. I mean, Slim, you know what, here's the way I don't read music. I read chord charts. Okay, but that to me is a chink in my armor, my musical thing. And so I'm working on that. I want it all. I'm greedy. I want it all. I think that would help me. So actually, as of late, I've gotten back on a kind of heavy practicing binge, like put on the damn metronome and get that stuff clean. I also don't play with a pick. And so I've got this goofy, self-contrived style of finger picking. And
No, are you using your fingers, or are you using your fingernails? Because I know that I've
Fingers.
Yeah, you're using your fingers. You're not using your
and
fingernails.
then when I need a bite, in the tone or whatever, then I will put some nail into it, or actually like just snap string. Like if you want like a snap string kind of stratty, funky kind of solo, I'll just kind of even pull on the string.
Well, I mean, it
Does that make
sounds
sense?
great.
I
It
don't know.
doesn't. Yeah, it does. It. Like I say so many times, if you use your finger or your fingernail or a pick, it really kind of doesn't matter, does it? I mean, if Picasso used a brush or a roller or a spray can, it
Doesn't
really
matter.
doesn't matter. If
No,
it's the app, it's what is produced that matters.
that's right.
Not
I'm
the
with you.
actual technique of that. And the question that I have is, so you get started in your 20s, And what did you put together to get your record deals? I mean, were you looking to do, I need to do an album of instrumental guitar music? I mean, what was the impetus? What kind of got you started down that road to go and take your talent at playing guitar and write songs, instrumental songs? Because you do. I've heard you sing a couple of times, but for the most part, your albums, your CDs are
more heavily weighted instrumentally. Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
You're one of those guys that does both, and I hate you too.
Oh, yeah, well,
you sing great and you play great. That's just not fair, Slim.
At what point did you kind of say, you know what, I need to write some songs and put out a CD? Was it a decision, or was it just something that happened kind of naturally?
Mm-hmm. By the way, you're good at this. You're asking me questions that are making me kind of grope and go, Let's see. Well, I always loved writing songs, so I always kind of wrote little songs and put them down on, at the time, cassette and then CD, always put them down on, or DATs. And, I went through all the mediums of music there. And, so I always loved writing little songs. And then a guy he was actually a stockbroker, believe it or not, saw our little band. We were just, kind of playing some funky little clubs and little restaurants, background music, and then, little hole-in-the-wall clubs and stuff. And he said, hey, I like what you guys are doing. Why don't you make a record? Why don't you make a CD? And I went, oh, well, I kind of hadn't really thought of that so much. And so he really got the ball rolling. I said, well, he said, well, we can do a budget of, and it was a small budget, but still, it was more than I had ever dealt with. And there you go. That was the first record.
And what was the first record called?
Cameo.
But that was in the late 80s, though, wasn't it?
I told you I was a late bloomer. I mean, I was a late bloomer. You've probably been doing this your whole life, right, Slim? Did you?
Yeah.
Did you like as a kid? When was your first CD? No, you're laughing. That's a great thing. I'm jealous. It's beautiful.
All I really wanted to do when I got serious was to write songs. So I started writing songs for Motown, and I got a couple of covers.
That's awesome.
And then they offered me a record deal, and we did a whole record and never got released. And so I took a lot of those songs and kind of rewrote them. But I was always writing songs and pitching them to Carl Anderson, Al Jarreau, any of the jazz vocalists,
Sure.
Angela Bofill, a lot of those kinds of folks. I just wanted to write the songs. I never really wanted to be out in front of everybody.
Is that
I just
truth?
wanted to be the guy. Yeah, it's really, truly.
Wow.
And to this day, the place that feels like home to me is writing songs for other people. The only reason why I put out the first Slim Man CD was because someone heard all of these demos that I'd done for Al Jarreau and Carl Anderson.
You have such a cool voice and everything.
And then they said, you know what? Because I did the demos in the only voice that I know, which is like singing low and slow. So, and then somebody said, you know what? You should put these out. And so I did, and that was the first Slim Man CD. But it was never anything that I thought about. I just wanted to be the guy that wrote the songs for other singers. And so, and I did, pretty well. I got there was this guy named Brian Jack, and I wrote a bunch of songs for him, and we got D. Anthony.
Yep.
Yeah, D. Anthony did, he was the manager for Basha and Jay Giles and Frampton, and he got him a deal at Epic and all that stuff. So, I did okay writing for other people. But the first Slim CD just came about because I just had all these demos that I'd written for other people, and someone said, you ought to put that out, and I did, and it took off. But I never really wanted to be an artist. But you when you put out your first CD, Cameo, when you said it's a small budget, what are you talking? You can be honest.
Oh God,
you don't have to,
I don't.
Was it 2,000, 1,000, 5,000,
Yeah, something in there.
20,000?
Something in there. I'm not being cryptic. I honestly don't remember exactly what it was, but it was not like a record label record budget. It was like slim. I'm guessing like a couple thousand. Here's a couple $1,000. Go buy yourself some.
Right.
So we bought gear.
Right.
We bought gear and we recorded Cameo on an 8-track Tascam. I'm not kidding you. And no reverb.
Like an
so
ancient piece
I
of,
put the guitar amp in the bathtub, and I'm serious. No click track. So, and we wanted to, especially on a few tunes, wanted to overdub some stuff. So with masking tape, we taped a metronome to the drummer's ear. I'm serious. You think I'm joking, and I'm not. And and recorded the percussion in the kitchen of the apartment, and all the pots and pans were rattling, so we took those out and threw them on the floor. And I mean, it was funky. Slim.
Yeah.
It was as low budget as you could get.
Yeah, I understand. The first CD that I did was it was a budget of like between $4,000 and $5,000, and that was it. And I did it, just like you said, on 8 tracks. That's all I had to work with. So that's all you got. That's all you got.
That's right.
Now, why the big gap between Cameo, which came out 89, 90, and then your next CD was 97?
God, you're good.
96?
Yep. The big gap.
Why the 6-year gap? Were you that depressed?
No. Making a living, being a local musician. Like I said, continuing playing the little clubs, and we got better gigs because of the album, and we got some radio play. And remember the Gavin convention? Remember that?
Oh yeah.
They were really.
It was the Gav. Just for people who don't know, the Gavin conventions were where all the radio people, program directors, DJs, and everybody came to these banquet halls that were decked out in these wild parties. And artists would come, bands, musicians, and the radio people would be there. And it was this big fiesta for the radio and the musician types.
It was, and they put out charts too. The Gavin Report was a
they would say, this is number 1, this is number 10, this is number 18 with a bullet,
and they would track radio spins, et cetera, et cetera. So the Gavin folks, it was located here in San Francisco, and I got to say, those two brothers were a pair of brothers ran the thing.
Keith and Kent Zimmerman.
I was just about to say that. Keith and Kent.
I'm still friends with both.
Yeah, those guys, I'll tell you. Will you tell them hello for me? They were really good to me. They really helped me. They sort of gave me an authoritative voice. Not my voice was authoritative, but meaning it was someone bigger than me saying, listen to this stuff. Somebody with authority and clout saying, hey, check this girl out. And they wrote a really glowing review, and we got Gavin Best Artist, just some really nice accolades from those guys. And they really, really helped me get started and get out there.
So how did you get your next couple of CDs? Because they were on Heads Up, which is a pretty big, one of the biggest jazz labels in the United States. You're going from, a $5,000
not even
budget on.
I don't think even.
Not even on Cameo, and then you got 6-7 years, and now all of a sudden you're on Heads Up.
And so what we did is we just shopped. We sent all these funky cassettes and these things, to people. No, don't call us. We'll call you. Driving in, flying out to New York, driving to L.A., and we were shopping, and we got a couple nibbles, and Dave was one of them, and we ended up on Heads Up, and bada boom,
So you sent a tape to Dave, he got a nibble, and then a nibble turned into a bite, and a bite turned into Land and the Big Fish, and you did 2 albums for Heads Up, and then you went to the biggest jazz label in the world with Verve.
Yeah.
GRP.
Yep.
That was amazing.
Yep. Universal, now Universal. Well, it became Universal Records too while we were there.
And all of a sudden you're with Verve, which was the label that Norman Granz started to record Ella Fitzgerald. That really was why that label came into existence in the first place. And they were the biggest. How did all that happen?
You know, Slim, I wish I could say one, it was just climbing up the ladder. We did very well. I mean, you did the same thing. We did very, very well with radio play. We had some fortunate to have some number one radio things, and they stayed on the charts for a while. And how lucky is that? And and then when you get good radio play and you start getting better gigs and things, you get more of a wider audience and more exposure, et cetera, et cetera. There's really no magic thing, or mystical thing to say it was sort of a natural progression of things. And the funny thing about our debut on Verve is that it came out on 9/11, literally. Remember, it was a Tuesday?
Are you serious?
I'm serious, Slim. The whole thing fell apart.
Oh my
Our record got
goodness.
released at like 9 or 10 a.m. in the morning, at all the record stores, and
Lord.
10:30 or 10:45, the planes went through the tower, and it was all over. That record just boom. I mean, it did well at radio again, but the whole thing, it just, the air just fell out of it. Nobody, I didn't
Wow.
care that we had a CD out. The country was in trauma, and music was the last thing on people's minds. So that was an unfortunate, an unfortunate
Unfortunate timing.
timing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Do you consider it difficult being a woman musician or a woman artist?
No.
These days you have a lot of female jazz instrumentalists with
Do.
Mindy Abair and Jessie J
Yeah.
and
Cindy.
not a lot of guitar players
Cindy
though.
Bradley. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah,
Keiko.
Cindy Bradley plays trumpet.
Keiko
Keiko
Matsui.
Matsui
Yeah.
plays the piano,
Sure.
but name one guitar player.
Oh, they're out there. They're definitely out there.
Where are they? Name one.
Oh, well, sadly. No, you didn't give me a chance. You're quick with that buzzer, man. You got the trigger touch there. Well, she passed away, but she was before me. Emily Remler, she was straight ahead jazz. I mean, a stellar player.
I mean, somebody might even recognize. There aren't a whole lot of, female
Jane
guitar
Getter.
players in general.
Jane Getter
in
and
general.
Mimi Fox, and they are out there.
There was the girl, the one girl that played with Michael Jackson. She played guitar.
Great.
I don't know her name.
Great. She's
But
fabulous.
there haven't been a whole lot of female guitar players. But
I've seen 'em more and more.
you've got your own niche.
Well, it's been challenged. Although I'm of the belief that there's room for everybody. There's no
There's not.
Yeah, there's no scarcity. There's room for everybody. we're all
So
different,
When did we first meet? Do you remember?
Yeah, you and I met but you were one of the first. We were just brand new out there, Slim. It might have been like in Cincinnati.
I had that radio show in Baltimore.
Yep, and we did that.
And every Sunday I had the Slim Man's Cool Jazz Cafe, or
I
what it was
remember.
called. And I
Yep.
played a lot of your music, and we did a couple of interviews on the radio. We did a show in
We've done a lot of shows.
did a couple of concerts together that I remember.
In the desert.
We did the Christmas show
Yep.
with Jeff
Oh,
Koshawa.
that was fun.
And
I
we went
loved that.
around to a couple of places, and we played Christmas
In
music.
Seattle. That was
And
a fun gig.
And you actually played in my set, and that was one of the first concerts I remember. And then, do you remember the time? Where were we? In Detroit, and we were outdoors, and we were on stage. I think we were on stage. You were getting ready
and the
to go
rain,
on.
and it started
my!
pouring.
Like
I remember.
the tornado came through.
Oh man!
And they brought the top of the lighting truss, the lights that are way above the stage, and they started cranking it down. And I'm like, we're gonna get squashed.
And remember, we thought all the audience was going to leave. I swear, this is why Detroit is one of my favorite places to play ever. Those
I love
people did
Detroit.
not budge. I saw from whoops, I hit the mic. Sorry. I'm Italian too, so you tie my hands and I'm speechless. Um, part Italian, and so all I saw was a
Yeah,
sea of brightly colored umbrellas just grooving
yeah.
back and forth. Nobody left anywhere. People put plastic bags over their feet and they were not budging because live music was going on. And I was like, oh, God, these are music people. This is a music audience. I love Detroit.
What are you working on now? I mean, we talked about
Accordion. No, I'm just,
accordion. You're
I'm
working on an
just kidding.
accordion and bagpipe Celtic music record?
No, not. Although I like that kind of music when well played. No. Um, Slim, it's funny. We're working on it. We're done recording. We've pretty much wrapped up the recording yesterday. We actually thought we were done recording about 3 weeks ago, or a month ago even. And then we have 5 songs ready to go. We wrote a bunch. We wrote about 20 songs. And then we thought, okay, we'll choose this, these 10. And then we whittled it down. We said, well, let's drop an EP first, meaning a 5-song.
So you got a 5-6 song EP. You're putting the final touches on it, and what do you do with it then? Are you going to release it yourself? Are you going to shop it around to different record companies? Are you going to? I mean, what's the plan?
Yeah, there is a plan. I mean, we'll release it digitally, and we'll
On your own?
yes, and we'll continue with 5 more songs, and then release it. Maybe make a physical copy at that point, but we will release it, and we'll do some promo and things like that. I hadn't thought about shopping to a label, but I'm kind of in the mode of see what sticks.
What's your new EP going to be called? Do you have a title?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, the reason I'm hesitating because we're vacillating between a couple titles, so I don't want to confuse folks. So maybe I'll hold back on
Right.
the title yet.
Do you have like a release date? Is it the first of the year? February? Is there a general time frame?
General time
2018?
would be in the spring. Yeah.
In the spring of 2018.
Because you got to set
So
it up. Although, now here's a question for you, Slim. I guess the setup time now for CDs is a lot less than it used to be, isn't it?
People are doing it in various ways. The thing that I like a lot about the kids these days, it's singles. They release one song and that's it.
Love that.
And they just release it and then see what hits, and then if it doesn't, they're right on the heels with another one.
That's right.
So I don't think there's any lead time. As a matter of fact, when you think about Beyonce and her new album, she just dropped it.
Yeah,
there
I
wasn't
love
like, oh, it's
that.
coming out in 3 months.
I love
It's
that.
coming out in 6 months. I mean, just to drop it. Period.
Drop it.
Here it is.
Throw it up
You know,
on
it's
the on the internet, man.
The biggest problem these days is cutting through the noise. How do you do it? How do you get ears on your stuff? How do you get eyeballs on your stuff? How do you get people to like you?
Right, right. Please like me.
Please like
Will
me.
somebody like me?
It's like, could you imagine, like,
How needy.
Jimi Hendrix?
I need you
please,
to like
please,
me.
please like my Facebook page. Miles Davis. Please friend
Miles,
me
don't
on
play that.
Facebook. Could you imagine? It does take a little bit of the cool factor out of it when you're
Totally begging people to like me.
Do you cook?
I do. I love to cook. As I mentioned, Mom's folks were right off the boat from Italy, just heavy Italian family. And, of course, food in Italy and Italian, I mean, it's all, synonymous, right?
So you're from New York, right?
I was born and raised back east. Yeah, I was between
Back
New Jersey
east.
and New York my whole life. Yeah, toggling between the 2 states.
And how did you get out to California?
California, really, it was the call of the wild, wild west. It was as simple as that, Slim. Friends were stopped by the house. You want to go out to California? Sure. Grabbed I've told this story before, a paper bag and threw some stuff in it and off we went. It was just, the lure of the Wild Wild West. I'd never been out here.
What are you going to do tonight? What does Joyce Cooling do the night before Thanksgiving 2017?
Well, usually I'd be cooking. However, this year, the folks where we gather with Jay's family, they're doing house renovation, et cetera, et cetera. So we're all going to meet at a restaurant. So nobody's cooking any food, which is the first time in, I don't know how many years. So usually I'd be cooking. And I imagine you are, right? Are you doing the...
No. It's so weird. Everybody asks me that. I don't cook for Thanksgiving.
Okay.
It's like the only day of the year I don't cook.
I believe it.
Well, is there anything else you want to talk about? Is there something I haven't covered?
No,
Are we cool here?
We're
Joyce
cool
Cooling?
here. You've covered everything. Slim, you're really good at this. My God. It was
so-
way fun.
How are you going to incorporate your name, Cooling, into the next CD? Because I saw that your last one was called Global Cooling.
I know. I'm sorry. Ouch. I'm sorry.
Global Cooling.
Okay.
It's just clever.
Now, come on,
it's
tell
funny.
me. Did you roll your eyes when you saw it?
No.
Did you go,
I was
Joyce,
like,
girlfriend, what
actually,
you doing here?
I thought it was funny. I did. I thought it was clever and funny.
Okay.
Global Cooling. Joyce Cooling.
And you wouldn't lie to me now just because we're on tape.
Yeah. Well, it has been an absolute pleasure talking with you, Joyce Cooling.
It has been.
Well, there you have it, my slim amigos and amigas. That was my conversation with Joyce Cooling. She's a lot of fun, huh? What a great laugh. It was a pleasure talking to her, yes. And if you want to find out more about Joyce Cooling, I guess you do what you normally do, just go to Google, Joyce Cooling. I get a feeling that Joyce is up to something. I mean, in her studio that she just built in her house, she has space for about 20 people. So something in the back of my mind says to me, Slim Boney, maybe she's going to do some kind of Facebook Live thing before an audience, or maybe she's going to do some kind of performances there, or maybe she's going to have a podcast. I don't know, but Joyce is up to something, and I'm sure she's up to something good. So keep tabs on her, folks. Joyce Cooling, she's worth watching. Really good guitar player. And she and her husband, Jay, produced some really good records. And I don't know why, but she hasn't been performing a whole lot. I know that her mom was sick for a while, and she was taking care of her mom, and she just passed away. And that can kind of take you off the scene for a while. But check out Joyce. I'm trying to do some shows with her in 2018, and hopefully we will. Anyway, I just wanted to read to you, my slim people, an email that I got. It just, I don't know, it just kind of tickled me. Dear Slimmy, my wife and I will celebrate 40 years of marriage in a few days on December 22nd. We count our blessings, and one of them is you, my friend. We are cozied in front of the fire and Christmas tree and sipping on glasses of Merlot while listening to the Christmas Eve CD. We love your music and wanted to thank you for sharing your talent and beautiful singing. Maybe someday we can see you perform. Merry Christmas from a couple of devoted fans, Marty and Barb from Lincoln, Nebraska. I love hearing stuff like that. I just thought I might share that with you. Share a little bit of joy. Share some love with you slim people. Thank you, Marty and Barb, for making my day. Yes, indeed. All right, folks, speaking of the Christmas season, why don't we check out a song from the Slim Man Christmas Eve CD. This is a song called The Gift. There's a great story behind this song. Well, there's a story behind this song. I did a concert at the Thornton Winery, I guess it was back in 2007, and after the concert, a woman came up to me, and she was in the Marine Corps, and she told me that the Slim Man CDs had gotten her through a couple of tours in Iraq, and she got all teared up, and I got all teared up, and it really made an impression on me, and when I got back to the Slim Shack, I thought about what it must be like to be away from your family, to be in a foreign country, to be a soldier far, far away from home during the Christmas season. So I wrote a song about it, and it's all about, being away from the ones you love during Christmas time. And it's called The Gift, and it goes a little something like this.
Stars are shining in the sky. Tomorrow's Christmas Day. The moon and I, we wonder why you're so far away. Wonder how you are tonight. Wish that you were here, sitting by the fireside at this time of year. And there's just one gift this Christmas Eve I hope for. When I make a wish upon a star, to wake up in your arms on Christmas morning. That would be the greatest gift of all. Christmas Eve and all the trees are covered up in snow. I wish that you were standing here beneath the mistletoe. Christmas is the time of year to be with ones you love. You with me, a Christmas tree, an angel up above. And there's just one gift this Christmas Eve I hope for. When I make a wish upon a star, to wake up in your arms on Christmas morning. That would be the greatest gift of all. And there's just one gift this Christmas Eve I hope for. When I make a wish upon a star, to wake up in your arms on Christmas morning. That would be the greatest gift of all. Greatest gift of all.